Thank you everyone for joining us today on Let's Talk Business series by Realty NXT. So before we start with the discussion, I want to know from each one of you, what is you guys up to in terms of your company and what are you so passionate about specifically for this PropTech sector? Starting with you, Kshitij.
Thanks for inviting us. Kritika, it's honor to be here. So I'll tell you briefly what we do. I'm the CEO and co-founder of TEAL, the Economics and Analytics Lab, a technology startup. We're working on trying to digitize property land records across the country. And what we do is we essentially take information from various different sources around government departments, so sub-registrar offices, municipal records, courts, development authorities, and so on, and try to create a single point of reference to understand whether a property has a dispute, whether the title is clear, whether there's any other legal encumbrances that might end up causing a problem for a potential lender against a property or a home buyer. And our primary customers right now are mainly lending institutions, and we work in 14 different states currently. We have more than 100 million properties on our platform, and we're trying to increase that. And we serve some large customers such as HDFC, Tata Capital, Home First, Aadhar Housing Finance, and we're trying to expand it to as much of the country as we can.
Sarabjeet, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So, hi Kritika, thanks for inviting. I'm looking forward to an amazing discussion today. I'm the co-founder and CEO for Zeassetz. Zeassetz is the subsidiary of Zolostays. Zolostays is a very well-known name in the co-living industry. We are trying to solve the problem of an investor. So with the help of technology, we are bringing a lot of selected, curated properties where they can invest for a long term and can get amazing returns with zero worry of owning a residential real estate. Compared to the market returns of 1 to 2%, we are offering high returns as 5 to 6%. And there's no hassle of maintaining the property or hassle of tenant management and all. With the help of technology, we are trying to give them the opportunities to invest remotely, exit remotely, and enjoy all the benefits without even being there at the site or the property location. So that is what we are trying to solve for.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kritika, for inviting me. I'm Abhilash. I run a company called IB Homes. We are a technology company in the residential real estate space. What we essentially do is we make instant offers to buy homes. So selling a house is a very painful process in India. If you would say own an apartment in Bangalore, it could take you between 6 months to a year to sell if things go well. We are able to make an offer in a week. We then buy the property on our books, we refurbish it and further sell it.
So Abhilash, what makes you so passionate about this PropTech sector?
Well, a couple of things here, Kritika. One is I think that technology in the real estate sector, the uptake has been fairly minimal. And when you talk about real estate tech, the first thing people think of would be the digital classifieds, right? Whether it's 99 acres, Magic Bricks, etc. But we should realize that evolution happened maybe 10, 15 years ago, probably 15 years ago. Since then, uptake of technology has been fairly minimal. And let me kind of contrast it to other sectors, right? If we take classifieds in particular, the typical evolution has been from, say, a very generic classified like OLX and Quicker to a vertical focused classified. So 99 acres, Magic Bricks is one example of it. It just makes kind of search and discovery a lot easier. To typically a transactional setup where more problems can be solved, a better customer experience can be delivered. And we've seen the same thing play out in several other sectors, right? So cars, for example, cars went from, say, OLX and Quicker to, car trade, which was more just discovery of cars in a vertical platform, to a company like Spinny or Cars24, where you own the entire transaction. And real estate has been really lagging behind. Real estate is also personally close to me because, I grew up in a family where my dad used to run a small real estate business. While I have personally not worked in it prior to starting IB Homes, it's something that I've always understood because most dinner table conversations at home have been around that.
Okay. Sarabjeet, what made you passionate about this sector?
So, since my younger days, I always wanted to invest into real estate. I always wanted to own real estate. I come from a business background, and I always wanted to become an entrepreneur and use my own earned money to be invested into real estate across the country. And when I moved to Mumbai in 2011-12, I landed with a dream that I should have an apartment there in Mumbai. And from there, this journey started. And if you see investors like us, we don't have much choices because we travel a lot. We work in different cities. We don't want to own a house, but we want to have an investment which should be easier to choose from, should be worry free, and the entry point should be very very less. So this is what I was trying to solve, because with a limited sum of money with me, I wanted to buy multiple properties. That is where I come from, and this is what I'm trying to solve, because in my business, my consumer enters with only paying 10% and a minimal net EMI of 5,000-6,000 or 10,000 rupees a month. The cost of ownership, the entry barrier is so amazing that anyone can invest. So this is what I was passionate about, and happy to say that today I have properties across five metro cities of the country, and I want everyone like me to have this portfolio with limited sum of money.
Nice. What about you, Kshitij?
Yeah, so I had a sort of non-traditional, route to this sector. So I studied economics. I'm a data, sort of geek. I worked in different capacities in urban and housing markets across different places. I worked in the global urban housing team of the World Bank. Worked in Housing.com a few years ago, and also in the government side. So I think one thing that has always attracted me to the housing market is that there is a lot of problems we solve that affect a lot of people, and a big part of that is transparency. So, for instance, you don't really know what is the actual market price of a property here. It's obfuscated. There's a lot of black money in the sector. So, what it ends up causing is that you don't really have an understanding of how the true kind of market value of property would work. Similar thing on the legal side. Right? So, 2/3 of civil litigation in India are land and property disputes. That's something that persists for a long period of time. The average time to resolve a case is more than 20 years when it comes to land and property. So I've been looking at this space, for a period of time with these type of issues. But I think one opportunity that now we are presented in, that there's a marked change in terms of efforts by different state governments and the central government to also try to formalize and digitize a lot of the records that are there. And the scale that you can now reach in terms of being able to build on top of that is very attractive. It's very interesting, and we have a lot of technologies that are available to us in terms of AI, machine learning, to be able to clear and organize this and do it in a cost-effective way at scale. So I think that's why we started on this journey, and we thought, how much of a difference can we make, with this? And obviously, there's a lot of things that are still offline in the real estate sector, but this is one area that at least we thought, and for me, it was a big attraction, that we can really make a difference in terms of how many people we can provide more transparent information for, and reduce litigation, reduce fraud, and reduce potentially critical loss in a big investment in your lifetime that you would make.
So I want to ask from all of you, the very crucial, important question is, in 2003 and 5, between that era, we have seen the launch of 99 Acres Magic Bricks. And then in 2012 and 16 ke aspas, we saw the launch of Common Flow Housing, a lot of other companies coming in. But every time investors have always said, there's a time for the Proptech to take off. It will take time for the Proptech to take off. And we are now standing 2023, and we are hearing the same dialogue. So where do you think the Proptech sector is facing the challenge, and when will actually the Proptech sector will take off in India? So according to you, Abhilash?
Well, I obviously think the time is now. Of course, my answer is particularly biased because we are in this sector. However, see, a lot of the ingredients for things to take off are currently present now. One of the things Kshitij mentioned, for example, is digitized property records. That's a very large underlying infrastructure that is required to build any kind of transactional system on top of these existing classifieds, right? So this is an infrastructure which has existed around the world. So in the US, for example, just the property price data is called the MLS, the multiple listing service. The second aspect is there is a significant shift in user behavior with regard to technology and startups. See, real estate has always, people buying homes or selling homes have traditionally been extraordinarily conservative. Now, I think there is a lot of goodwill for what technology companies are doing in general, which is why we believe that even this is the right time where consumers are also okay to adopt technology in sectors to make their life easier. And while real estate is being lagging, I feel this is the right time. Additionally, we are, Kshitij again spoke a lot about data, right? I think the progress in artificial intelligence and machine learning over the last decade will have a very direct impact in property, like we have seen it have an impact with fintech or some of these other industries as well.
Kshitij, what do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think the longer arc of history, if you look at it, I think it's interesting you started that period when the first classifieds came. We've seen these different waves, right? And I was at housing at that time when obviously SoftBank money had come in to try to figure out a more tech-based approach to listings. In a way, a lot more focus on design and so on, the consumer experience. And now, 8 years on from that, I think there's been money that has been put into the sector, but it's not clear to me that necessarily it's led to the best outcomes in terms of sustainable business models that can last. I think that's the period we are, to some extent now, they may be declining, but the way every sector has gotten an influx of cash, Proptech is sort of the last in that chain to kind of get that. Fintech obviously had that. Proptech now there is a lot of cash, but I think it's chasing maybe limited sustainable business model. And the reason for that is we also realized early on that building a consumer business in real estate is hard. If you look at the listing portals that have been there for now 20 plus years, even them they're struggling to make consistent profits, right? One or two of them will make profits every year. And that sustainable trajectory of growth is still very, very high, right? And so we also, initially were, providing to end users our data, what we had digitized, we had kind of provided, but we thought that the customer acquisition cost for that would be very high, and so essentially we started working with the lenders, and they are the, in fact, de facto due diligence kind of function, because a lot of people get loans from a reputable lender just so that they can at least get the due diligence, top of getting that this has been provided by an HDFC, they would have done their due diligence, right? So, and we found that to be a lot more sustainable in terms of growth, because the customer acquisition side requires a lot of marketing, requires essentially the customer journey to be tracked, which is very hard in an advertising-based model for consumers in real estate, because it's basically short periods of active engagement and then complete drop-off. Right, so building ad models on that is very hard, which anyway in India is tough. So what they ended up doing was monetizing through brokers. Obviously now that there are models to try to kind of disintermediate that, but that has happened over many periods of time in the past, and it's been somewhat hard to do. So I think I'm a little bit less sort of I think it's obviously a sector which will grow and will provide those returns. But I really think the sustainable business models are the ones that should be, the ones that actually can get the funding, and then because otherwise too much cash can then also lead to essentially going away from that direction, which you think easy money is always going to be available. And genuine entrepreneurs, genuine businesses may not get built unless if you have those sort of distractions that you have to kind of keep up with, in terms of getting talent, in terms of getting other resources, chasing the right now.
Quite interesting. I'll come back to that. But before that, Sarabjeet, what's your take? Are you also optimistic like Abhilash that 2023 has come for PropTech sector now?
So I would say the time is now, but not 2023.
Yeah.
And I will agree with both the gentlemen. But yes, looking at the past, my experience, I was also with PropTiger while we merged with housing, and I know all that. So that point of time, it was very high. The kind of investment coming into PropTech sector was very high, but now because of the non-sustainable businesses, profits, even the investors have taken a small step back, and they're also looking forward that how this will grow or will sustain. And with that, I think if we want to evolve, we need a good amount of money to be coming into this sector, and then a lot of experiments need to be done. AI, ML, all these technologies need to be brought in. I think the consumer is also ready now. As a consumer, I'm also looking forward to use technology to figure out what to buy, what not to buy, when to buy, how much I need to invest, and all that. I think the entire ecosystem is ready, but I think it will take some more time to kind of reach there.
So as you said, for consumer basis, you all three have spoken about. But what about those PropTech sector, the companies which are doing for example, the developer, they're building tech, and it's said by investors that building tech for developer and monetizing over it, it's quite difficult for those tech companies. And when we see procurement companies like Off Business and Infra Market, they are profitable business. They are doing huge. I think their revenue is also touching the $1 billion. So where do you think the problem is lying? Is it only towards the consumer also, or even the tech front, the people who are building for developers? Secondly, which sectors, according to you, is going to gain a lot of profitable business? Like how we have seen with the procurement, a lot of companies are coming in and they're doing good revenue. They are like profitable. You can call them unicorns also. So what's your take on that?
I think sectors like property management, I think that's one sector. Then the asset management, then investment into real estate, only pure investment. I think these sectors will grow with the help of PropTech, and I think there will be a lot of margins in these kind of businesses, and hence they'll be sustainable. And looking at it, there'll be investment coming into these sectors, and I see there's growth in these sectors as per me.
What's your take on that?
Sure. So I think it generally helps that in the last 4-5 years, even on the real estate developer front, things have become a lot more formalized. Of course, RERA was a big step there, which means that as things are more formalized, things are more organized, it's easier for, say, construction tech companies where they're kind of building out on a SaaS model to have paying customers. So I see no reason why companies can't do well there. You mentioned procurement. The one thing that I want to mention there is Off Business, Infra Market. The reason they are able to do well is because they're able to own that transaction, create which captures most of the value, which is something in real estate has been hard, especially if you talk about people even supplying to developers, because the value capture ends up happening at the developer. Apart from that, I think one very interesting area is the kind of augmented reality field which is coming up. Most developers have always been used to selling homes which don't exist. So literally it is being sold on a brochure, or pretty much on the brochure, right? I think tools which help that sales process will find immediate product market fit.
Great. Kshitij?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that much of the ins and outs of those businesses that you mentioned, but I think in terms of selling to developers, in terms of like tech products and tech services, selling to developers is not a big market right now. And the reason is because, see, from a developer perspective, right, like what are the kind of main pain points? The first pain point is that they need to get the land. So acquiring the land, clearing or getting clearances, permissions, all that. Then actually constructing it, getting the financing in multiple tranches, and getting the buyers, then marketing, and so on. So most of those processes are offline processes, right? Which they are good at, and that's how they distinguish themselves. And very rarely do you see pan-Indian developers, right? Like a developer usually has a stronghold, a successful developer has a stronghold in a particular geography or a state at most.
Right.
Now there are few that are entering other stuff, and the reason for that is because they have the know-how how to get supply and build and supply that project, whatever it takes. And so I think even for us, I mean, we've had developer customers and provide them data and those kind of information. But honestly, it's not something right now. I think there is a lot of room for tech to build a sustainable business model there, because the number of developers is also very small, right? I mean, it's not that at least in the bigger ones, the ability to pay, and plus they also don't see that much of a value in terms of the tech side right now. I think what you were mentioning was on procurement of materials, aggregation, and creating some kind of business model disruption in that space. Yeah, maybe, but I don't know how much tech there is in that, honestly.